our advertising is a net $158 a car. Net $158.
I love the fact that you know that, by the way.
And I know for fact, when I open up my Google data suite, there may be 2 or 3 people standing in my showroom. But there's going to be 40 or 50 people on my site right now. You can't manage what you can't measure, right? So in today's day and age, we have measurement tools for any dealer or anybody. We have a data suite through Google, and our data suite allows us to measure all the activity.
The notion of activity for activity for activity, and at the end of the day, part of that strategy is activity, but it has to be integrated.
Yes,
it has to work together, and there has to be a purpose to get to that next level.
Welcome to the Strategy with Jason podcast. Tune in for everything you need to know regarding the automotive industry. Here's your host, Jason Harris.
Hey, what's going on, Automotive Nation? I am Jason Harris, and thank you for joining me on another episode of the Game Changer Seminar, where I and my team have looked across the country to find the game-changing vendor partners out there that are going to ultimately help improve your operations and your bottom line. And boy, do I have one coming up on the stage now, as I'm actually really excited for this because, I have talked for years about how we really need to modernize our marketing. And I'm telling you, this particular company, Prophecy Digital, is doing exactly that. Their approach to becoming a vendor partner is absolutely game-changing. Their approach to the strategy and not just the activity of marketing is something really impressive. So I'm excited to have them up, guys. I'm going to have everyone a big round of applause. Bringing up Justin and Bill, guys. Come on up. All right. What's going on, Bill, man? Good to see you, Justin. Here, I'll have you guys take there. Sure. Guys, I'm so looking forward to getting into this conversation. By the way, how's Nashville treating you?
Pretty good. Been here a couple times. It never ceases to amaze me how fast it grows.
It is something, right?
First time for me, Jason. Literally landed and came right here, so I'll let you know tomorrow.
You'll let me know tomorrow afterwards? Yeah, we're going to have a good time tonight for sure. Well, guys, look, I'm super glad that you guys had the opportunity to come out. Really been looking forward to this conversation. Here's what I like to do is I love kind of kicking off these conversations with little origin stories, right? So that way everybody out there watching and listening right now kind of know who you are and kind of what you guys do right now. So let's go ahead and do that. Bill, I'll go ahead and start with you, and then Justin, I'll ask you the same. Bill, how in the world, and I always do the world, because I'm always fascinated how people just make their way into automotive. How did you get started in this crazy little world we call the automotive industry?
I'll tell you I'll tell you the truth. Let's go with that.
Okay, let's do that.
So the truth is, at 21 years old, I didn't have a car and was living in the Bronx and couldn't go on dates with girls without a car.
That's a problem.
So back in those days, it is a while ago, 40 years ago, if you sold 20 cars a month at a Chevrolet store in Central Avenue in Yonkers, they would give you a demo. So my second month, I sold 20 cars, and I got a demo, and I realized that I had landed in nirvana, and ended up moving into management very quickly. Worked for 3 public companies as an inside consultant for 20 years. Owned my own stores for the last 12, 13 years, and now I'm the operating partner at Gold Coast Cadillac Dealer of the Year 16 times in a row.
That's amazing. And I know that's a big commitment, man, to be able to really invest in the people, the process, and the technologies to get there. That ain't no overnight success. That's
4-letter word called work, my friend.
There you go, right? There we go. Justin, for yourself, man, like I said, I'm always fascinated because I don't think anybody just wakes up one day and goes, yeah, automotive industry. That's where I'm going to be. So I'm curious, how did it start out for you? How did you get into the automotive side?
Yeah, so it's fascinating. Certainly didn't wake up and was like, wow, automotive, let's do this. I was working with a company that sold home fitness equipment. And a gentleman came in with his wife, and I sold them a treadmill and a home gym and a whole bunch of equipment. And over the course of a couple transactions, he basically recruited me on board. And that was a company that sold direct marketing to car dealers. If you think old, mail sales, intent events, that type of thing. Ended up becoming a partner in that company. We were acquired by Auto Alert, then moved into digital advertising with another company, and had the opportunity to join the team here at Prophecy, and have loved it ever since.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
That's awesome. And guys, I'm excited to get into kind of what Prophecy Digital is doing and how different they are from everyone else out there. But here's what I kind of like to do. I like to kind of kick this off because I know we've had a chance to talk a little bit before we started recording today. You know, strategy is absolutely key. And, you know, I think for a lot of dealers out there, strategy hasn't really fundamentally changed in many, many years. And I think there's a difference between just like activity and strategy, right? So I guess here's my first question is like, how do you tell the difference when you know you're actually executing a strategy versus you're just doing the activities to do them? Bill, I'll start with you, and Justin, I'll ask you the same question.
Well, I think first, you know, you can't manage what you can't measure, right? So
Good point.
in today's day and age, we have measurement tools for any dealer or anybody. We have a data suite through Google, and our data suite allows us to measure all the activity from all the various, you know, portals and third parties and organic search mechanisms that would hit our site. And if you are paying attention to that, you can literally know, you know, when you're doing something right, you'll see the activity. When you're not, it's not sticky, you won't see the activity. It allows us, you know, years ago when I first started, you put an ad in the newspaper, the customer walked in with the rolled up newspaper under their arm and said, if you have this car, I'll buy it. You know, today's very, very different. The internet all it really has done is move the customer back a level and put a buffer between us and the customer to where we want to elevate them to live contact and communication. But to be able to do that, we need to know where they are.
Sure.
So without knowing where they are and where they're coming from and what message they're actually looking at, it's very, very difficult to capture those customers. So, you know, I would suggest for any dealer that's really trying to create a strategy, first set up your measuring tools. Understand where your traffic is coming from. Don't just throw money out there, and I'm sure that'll be part of our conversation. You know, make it rain money, it's going to make it rain customers. That's not necessarily so. You can really spend efficiently if you're paying attention to the traffic through your data suite.
Well, and if you're executing a proper strategy, then efficiency really is the name of the game, right? Like, it's one thing to see the activity like you're talking about, but if that activity is not meeting an objective, well, then it's just activity for the sake of activities. You know, you're not wrapping around a full strategy, right? I mean, every solid strategy out there has an objective in place, and that's honestly, I think, the biggest difference. And guys, I hate to say this, but like I've been doing audits for dealerships for years, and I would still say a lot of us are stuck in kind of this activity mode, and don't ever quite get to that stage of strategy. Justin, would you like to add to that?
Well, so the thing, you know, you mentioned the notion of activity for activity for activity, and at the end of the day, part of that strategy is activity, but it has to be integrated.
Yes,
it has to
go.
work together, and there has to be
meet
a
that
purpose
objective. Yep.
to get to that next level, right?
Yep.
Bill talked about that sort of, you know, buffer that's between the customer and the dealership. And one of the things, and I'm sure Bill will say that at some point because I've heard him say it before, is all processes need to hold hands and work together. And that's really, in my opinion, Jason, the key fundamental behind strategy. You have to have an understanding of what the goal is and then understand the activity that's going to get you there. It could be a different channel. It could be a different, you know, ad type, a video, whatever the case may be. But you have to have an understanding of how that strategy is going to be more than just activity.
You know, to add to what Justin said, you know, he made a very good point. You know, in not that our world is the end-all fix-all to the business, but we are philosophically, everything holds hands, including our internal manual processes, our people. You know, from the top to bottom up, we educate all of our employees on what our traffic looks like. In our morning meetings, they see what our digital traffic looks like.
Everybody needs to be a part of it.
They can see how many events. They can see how many customers are coming from what areas of the cyber world, if you will. The other thing too is you know, the strategic value of having your search engine optimization work hand in hand so that your paid search kind of turbocharges it, rather than just throw a lot of money at paid search to hope it generates customers for you, is a big deal. Everything we do, not because we're the smartest people in the world, we've just learned from trial and error that if you can make everything you do, including, I'll just give you one example. We have a QR code for just about everything. The QR code sends every customer to the same place, right? Because the goal is really to funnel everybody in all areas of what we do back to our website so that it churns up the weight on our search engine optimization. The more it does that, we all know organic search is always your best bet for selling a customer for conversion, right?
Of course.
Always. But if you look at all of your other areas of digital marketing as a segue to boosting your organic search weight.
It's that full integration,
Correct.
Right?
Absolutely.
And I know, and I'm glad that you brought that up, right? Because we have to look at marketing as a holistic approach, right? I mean, and this is where I kind of wanted to get into our conversation, and thanks for teeing that up, Bill, because I know Justin, me and you have talked about this before. It's like we got to get away from just this channel approach, right? These proverbial check boxes of like, okay, I did that channel and I did this channel and I got my SEO and I did my keyword search and I did my meta and I did my, we have to get away from that, and we have to look at it from an integration. So, and I know, so let's go there. I want to go there. And in fact, actually, Justin, I'm going to kick you off here. Like, omnichannel is the word that's used a lot right now. Is omnichannel real integration, or is it just multiple channels?
It depends.
Okay.
And that's not meant to be a indirect answer. It depends. Like, there are some people that will do, quote, omni-channel, but at the end of the day, it's really multi-channel.
Yes.
Right? And if you, in my opinion, are doing true omni-channel advertising, it is fully integrated, and you have the ability to understand not only what channels to be on, but when to be on them. And Bill knows this, right? He mentioned it earlier with the data that he and his team look at on a daily basis. There are so many variables that change daily, Jason, and you know this, right? Is today the day to be on Amazon? Should we be on TikTok? Should we be on Google? Right? And those are the things in a true integrated omnichannel strategy that are going to be part of the conversation. And if you have the appropriate technology, you're going to have signals that are going to help you understand where and when to invest your advertising dollars efficiently. Because at the end of the day, as an operator, Bill only has so many dollars to invest in digital advertising.
That's right.
We need to make sure that that investment is as efficient and as effective as possible. Because if he's spending $1 somewhere, he can't spend it somewhere else.
Well, and when I think of integration, that's what I hear. Like, I'm spending $1. I'm not spending $1 on marketing. I'm spending $1 where that customer is at. And just for everybody out there watching and listening, when I hear Justin talk about integration, that's what I hear, right? It's like, all right, if my customer's over here, I'm going to be over here. If my customer's over there, I want to be over there, right? But it's chasing the customer, not the channel.
Well, the funny thing, and I don't know if you picked up on this, but I was listening to the session that was right before us. You and the gentleman from Podium,
yep.
And he shared that, hey, we started to watch a show the other night. Let's assume it was on Netflix, right? He was streaming on OTT in some capacity, and he's like, it wasn't that it was a bad show or a bad movie. My wife and I are sitting there. He shared he was shopping for something, and she was on social media. They were spending time together. Wasn't a bad movie, but they were still there. That's the opportunity to reach a shopper where they're spending time.
100%, and I think for anybody out there, that's where we're seeing and I know, Bill, that you've seen this. So, Bill, this is where I kind of want to go with this. Is like, I think for years our industry has been chasing the click. God, guys, I don't have a budget for sound effects, but I mean, I'd love to get your thoughts on this, Bill. Like, are we chasing the click, or are we chasing profit? I mean, what's the difference at the end of the day? What are best practices, man?
Okay, well, first of all, if you're not chasing profit, you got to get out of any business you're in.
All right, there you go.
That's number one.
Podcast
get out.
is over.
You heard that here.
Don't burn your cash.
Mic drop.
Yeah. Or give me your money. I'll make money with it, and I'll give you a piece back. We can do it that way. Look, chasing the clicks, you got to get. If you don't get the clicks, you don't get the conversions. Okay, so that we know that. Yes. If people don't click on your, whether it's your ad or your vehicles or your message, it doesn't really matter. If they don't go there, if the other guy doesn't show up, you can't win a fist fight.
Sure.
Point blank. Okay? So therein lies the clicks. After that, though, do they convert? Is your site sticky? There's so many different layers to this that and I had this conversation, a dealer group from one of the meetings I was at most recently, and I was a keynote speaker at. I spoke about this very topic. and they said, would you mind getting on a call with us and talking about branding a certain brand in their market? And I said, sure. So we had the very same conversation, and there was 4 people, a vice president of this, a marketing guy of that, and general manager, and they were talking about how to brand their brand in their market. And I said, okay, well, let me just tell you what we do. I said, but there's one small problem here, and I'm not being a wise guy. There's a lot of detail involved here to make everything hold hands. This is what people maybe fail to see. You want to give people the impression you're everywhere. How do you do that?
And that is a great question, and I think one that we're going to tee up Justin here real quick for, because to your point, not all customers are made equal, right? There are some that are out there and they're in their research stage, and then there's some, to your point, with the click, they're in the shopping stage, right? They're actively shopping. They're clicking on multiple. No one just clicks on one thing. I mean, come on, we know this, right? Like they are shopping, and then there are the ones that are. They've made the decision, and now they're fully, ready to buy. And, Justin, I know you can probably say this a lot better than I can. But
No pressure.
no pressure, right? But being where all customers are at, not just where one set of customers are at, I think is key, correct?
Well, sure, because again, everybody's journey is very different. It's not
point,
linear.
yes.
It is not a straight line. It is not a single click and go. People are going to be doing research at some point, and then they're going to step away, and then they're going to come back in, and there's going to be some other factor that's going to encourage them to get back into that research, and then they're going to land on a vehicle. And with all of the digital properties and digital channels out there that are at our disposal for advertising, you have to make sure you are reaching the consumer where they're spending time with critical messaging that is going to resonate with them. Those are the 2 key things, right? It's reaching the right people and making sure that you're hitting them with messaging in a timely fashion. So 100% agree with you.
If I could just add one thing to that, what Justin said is key. But from an operational standpoint, there has to be deliverables. I mean, you have to be able to deliver on the message.
It's true.
It's the old story of the woman who makes great chocolate chip cookies out of her garage and decides she's going to create a website, and she can make a box an hour, and then she gets 100,000 orders, and she goes out of business because you can't fill them, right? So you got to be able to deliver on the message operationally. That being said, having an operation where, to Justin's point, the various levels where people are at, if your messaging includes a strategic approach that is omnichannel, meaning this guy's over here, I got to bring him down 3 levels to get him closer to the bottom of the funnel. This guy's over here, I just got to tap him on the head, he's going to drop in. So my point is to have the various areas of advertising digitally that move each one of those customers to whatever that next level is. That's the approach. That's what the omnichannel approach really is about. That's the strategy of it. And the last point I'll make on that, very simple, and this area of the world can really understand this. The difference between how the British fought the war in the beginning, they marched straight at each other, and then they came here and they realized that the Indians learned something called the flank, where they actually had a strategy where they would stand up on the hills and watch you walk into the valley and then snow you under, right? Difference between a strategy and the straightforward march, which is check all the boxes. I'm going to pay. Here's my paid search dollars. Here's my organic search engine optimization. Here's my newspaper. Here's my radio. Here's my TV. I'm good. Let's see what happens on the 30th. No.
I love the fact you bring that up, because I will say, and don't get me wrong, the fact you guys are probably watching and listening to this, you're probably not one of these individuals, all right? But there are still a fair amount of people in our industry that are operating in that exact same format. I know, Justin, me and you have talked about this before, and I think it's really, really key for everybody out there listening. Over 90% of that journey happens before the customer even makes themselves known, right? And it's so. I'm just thinking the complexity that is required to be kind of to your point, Bill, in all those places, to be in the research phase, and then to be in the shopping phase, and then they get to the shopping phase and realize, that car's not big enough. Let me go back to the research phase, and let me go, it's this, it really does require to find a good partner to do this. But here's the thing I'm finding in our industry is I'm finding this, I guess, fragmented vendor approach, which Strula really kind of leans into, and the channel strategy of just let me check off these boxes. I mean, I got one vendor over here doing this. I got another vendor over here doing this. I got another one over here. And then, okay, maybe collectively I've checked off those boxes, but none of them are communicating with me. And I hate to say this, but I see this happen so often right now that it just blows my mind. And I know, Justin, you have seen this as well. So I'd love to get your thoughts on the Bill from a dealership perspective. I'd love to get yours as well.
Well, sure. I mean, the notion of being integrated versus fragmented, that's really what you're identifying, right? A dealer may have one vendor to do their search, and then they have another vendor to do their social, and then they're working with somebody on OTT. And let's just assume we're stopping there because we haven't even talked about the creative side of things. That's true. Right? Because each of those individual vendors is going to have their own creative flair, their own creative idea. As a dealer, Bill could certainly sit in the middle and say, hey guys, this is the strategy I need you to execute, I need you to execute, and I need you to execute. But then what happens is Bill is focused on, corralling all of those individual partners or vendors, telling them the message, making sure that it lines up. And that, Jason, is fragmented, right? It's not necessarily good or bad. I'm not going to say good or bad, but it's fragmented. It's disconnected. Whereas when you go into an integrated strategy, if Bill says, hey, this is what we want to focus on. We want to focus on, Escalade this month, whatever it may be. We can take and have the same strategy with the same content, the same messaging, the same creative that is integrated across all of those channels. So Bill knows that his customers, whether they're spending time streaming a show on Amazon or scrolling on TikTok, the message supporting the vehicle that Bill needs to focus on from Gold Coast Cadillac, the messaging aligns from front to back, top to bottom.
And that's important. I know I know a customer can feel that. Because we know brands that do a good job of this, right? We know brands. Anyway, so I want to go back to the dealership side of it because I think there's a huge dealer impact. Have you seen this too, Bill?
Yeah, and again, to piggyback what Justin's talking about, when you're talking about the various levels of capturing the customer, it's really critical to remember to convert these customers, not just from the internet perspective, but just where they are. I'll give you an example. Talking about the third-party vendors. I advertise on Cars.com and AutoTrader, right? Names we both know really well.
Yep.
I spend the bare minimum for only one reason. AutoTrader and Cars.com are two of the most well-known names in the industry. People click on them.
Yes.
I don't spend advertising dollars on them, and I don't expect to sell cars on them. I'm only on them and I make sure I have one of the less expensive cars and one of the most expensive cars on the site, so wherever they go on that site, they can find Gold Coast. I don't care which car they look for.
Yep.
It's to boost my search engine optimization. I don't even go on there to sell cars.
That's a unique strategy.
It is a unique strategy. Along what brands us and brings all this together in my world is I do a lot of branding myself, but to Justin's point, wherever we go, and not to plug Prophecy, but they do a great job with this. I call them and I say, look, here's what I'm going to do. Here's where I'm going with it. Here's what I'm going to advertise, and here's where I'm going to shift gears. The nice thing about them is they'll actually pivot with me. It's not just spend $15,000 or $20,000 on the first, and we'll get back to you on the 30th. Again, that strategy rolls forward day to day with them, and they also pay attention to the same thing I'm paying attention to with the same measuring tools, which is great, which is a big help to me. So yeah, it's that their approach and my approach work very well.
So I got to ask, would you bet your gross profit on your current plan?
Would I bet my gross profit? Explain that further.
No, I'm just saying, because I say it kind of,
Yep.
sarcastically,
Yep.
right? Because I think that's what a lot of dealers are out there right now are doing.
Yeah.
Is that, they're betting this potential gross profit on a plan that, come on, let's face it, it's a little half-baked.
Yeah.
I'm confident in what you just said and the way that you just articulated it, that this is a full-fledged, omnichannel integrated strategy, and I can see all right, I'll bet my gross on this.
Well, great point. We, and again, I all the credit to my people internally, but when we spend money in any area of the digital world or any place, for example, we make sure our ground floor employees know where we're advertising, what the messaging is, how to handle the customer to bring them to live communication. And the big key for us is, and we talk about it all the time, how do we stay top of mind to anybody who comes in contact with us, whether it's CSI, our retention tools. But we tie all that into a digital mechanism. And for example, we have a thank you letter. It's got my name on it, my cell phone number. We have a QR code on there, which the salespeople scan at point of sale, that brings them to our appointment scheduler, which is embedded in our website.
I love it. Right?
It's embedded in our website.
And I love the fact that you brought up multiple departments, right? Because I think too often, I know just you've talked about this many times before too, guys, and for everyone out there watching and listening, is that too often we get into these marketing strategies, and not only are our vendors fragmented in the sense that they're not communicating with each other. Thus, and guys, just bottom line, real quick on that before I go, because I love finding rabbit holes. When you have, I know, thanks guys, you're laughed at me. All right, but I will say this, right? When you have fragmented vendors like that, and they're all kind of chunking away doing their own thing, it doesn't surprise me that 90% of your spend out there is only focused on the bottom funnel, right? Because what you're doing is you're holding all of the guys accountable for just bringing you the bottom funnel, and they end up, honestly, they step over each other's toes, they trip over on top of each other. But here's where I wanted to go with this, because I think at the end of the day, what makes a partner truly accountable is what's key here. And I think for everyone out there watching and listening, your marketing agency needs to be an accountable partner. Justin, we've talked about this, so I know you got some thoughts on this. Would you like to add to it?
Well, sure. Listen, it's a two-way street, right? Yes. At the end of the day, we can drive traffic, but it's, in this case, Bill's job to convert it. Yeah. And he shared part of his strategy when it comes to training, right? Education, communication. These are all things that, we as a digital advertising company, we can't do that for Bill. So Bill has the process, Bill has the team, he's recognized them. From our perspective, partnership is a critical part of it. We want to be in it as a partner in a dealer's business. Mm-hmm. Those same types of things: training, education, communication. We got to talk about the good things. We got to talk about the things that may not be so good, right? There's a lot of instances where I've heard, in my career where it's like, hey, look at all these great things, green arrows, green arrows, green arrows, but not enough people are comfortable talking about the red arrow, and that's part of it. Hey, Bill, listen, we did great on these three things. We need to talk about this one piece because from our standard, our perspective, we could do something different. We could be more effective. And that, in my opinion, is really what partnership is all about. We have to help support Bill and Gold Coast Cadillac and make sure that whatever, adventure we're about to go on together, like we understand it and we're in it together.
Well, and Bill, and I know I won't want you to answer this, but I just know from a dealer's perspective, for everyone out there watching and listening, that really does affect the profit at the end of the day, right? One of the things I found key to my success as a dealer operator, and I'm sure, Bill, yours is the same too, is getting my vendor partners, and I truly consider them to be vendor partners, in line with what my profit goals are, right? So not only from an internal operations perspective are we firing, like you said, your whole team, on all the cylinders with the objective, but now I also got my marketing and my vendor partners also marching to the same tune. One of the things I always found really, really interesting and kind of surprising is that we seem to have separate meetings. So we'll have a meeting internally for our staff to talk about what the next quarter's objectives are. And then we'll go have another meeting with our vendors and sometimes individually, which then that surprises me too. By the way, anybody out there watching listening, if you're not bringing all your vendors into a single meeting, you're missing out on a huge opportunity, right? Bill, I know you're good at this. You love to kind of bring everybody into play on this so that you got everybody marching to the same tune.
When we put at the beginning of the month, and it's as simple as, for dealers that don't have the, maybe it's the time or the capacity to do that, send out an email on the first day of the month or the day before the first day of the month when you put your advertising strategy together. Include your paid search agent, your whoever handles your search engine optimization if it's outside, your radio, your TV, any of your social media vendors. Put them all together on one email and outline what your approach is. Get them all on the same page, which literally on the same page, which we do every single month. And my advertising agency actually works directly with each one of these agencies. If I have 2, 3, 4, 5, but that one email, as goofy as it may sound, I can go right to that email on the 15th of the month and hit reply all, change the message, and they all know about it. It's that simple.
Yes.
It's that simple. And to that point, I think at the end of the day, some of the things that Justin said are so critical. The most important thing is to have, if you're going to, like prophecy as an example, dealers don't know, and I'm not taking a shot at anybody. I learned this stuff by accident. Otherwise, I was going to be a dinosaur. I had no choice. But for the younger people or some of the people coming up in the business, learn this end of the business. Our advertising is a net $158 a car. Net $158
I
a car.
love the fact that you know that, by the way.
But it is. And
Are you surprised?
No, I'm not.
But the reason for that is the ROI. If you're advertising properly digitally, and you do take a multi omni-channel approach where everything holds hands, everything fuels everything else, and then your employees are tied in by educating them on why staying top of mind to the customer works in stride with this. And one last point, for all of you that have data mining services, Auto Alert or Master, whatever you have, require your employees, your managers, and your salespeople on the floor to be on it for. We do 10 hours a month. If you're not on it 10 hours a month, 2.5 hours a week, you can't take ups until you have it done. And also, you're not allowed to. We take you out of the portal the next month, so you don't want that to happen. So what happens is this: when everybody's in there for 2.5 hours a week during the week, sending out offers to the customers, what happens is innately a certain percentage of those customers go back to your website for VDPs, and they start looking at your specials. You stay top of mind.
It starts the whole process.
It starts the whole process all over
Yep.
again. And what you're doing is you're adding so much weight to your search engine optimization. Your URL becomes more sticky, and you show up number 1, 2, or 3. And now on a general organic search from the outside in, even those customers are seeing you first because you're paying attention to how everything holds hands. Exactly what he's talking about.
100%. I know, Justin, you got some thoughts on this too.
Well, to Bill's point, right? It's all about quality traffic.
There we go.
Quality traffic that is ultimately going to convert. So what Bill is saying is exactly that, right? We want to drive more quality traffic that is going to increase the visibility and basically ranking for that dealership with Google, because at the end of the day, we just want to get that customer back to the website, because that's your digital parking lot, so to speak, right? That's where we need to get customers to engage.
Well, and here's what I love about both you guys and talking to you guys and hearing, both from Prophecy's partnership with you, Bill, and then Bill, your partnership with them. Look, I see this so much as a two-way, and I think that's what makes a good partnership. Really, at the end of the day, right? Is that what is that? All rising tides, lift. Right? Exactly. Thank you. I'm not always good with a good one, but is you guys' commitment to that, right? And one of the things I think is cool is just your guys' approach that digital traffic and showroom traffic to you guys is not two different separate things, right? They're a customer. And too often I've gone out and had to have meetings with dealers. I know if you've been in one of my meetings, you know who I'm talking. You know who you are, all right? Where it's like these are two different, no, it's the same person. We need to have our marketing, but our operations have this full funnel, omni-channel approach. And the only way you're ever going to be able to execute this is within a partnership. So guys, look, I know we're getting towards the tail end of our time, but my last question, I'd love to kind of get your guys' perspective, is just, how you guys treat that digital customer like the showroom traffic, right? For you, it's not different. Bill, I'd love to get your thoughts, and then Justin, I'd like to finish off with yours as well.
Well, we have live BDC. Obviously, we have 3 people in sales, we have 2 people in service. But the digital traffic that comes through, one of the things that we do is we do a lot of outbound. Like if you touch our flypaper known as our internet, and you're there, we're coming to you. We're going to encourage you we're going to try to elevate you to live communication. Our BDC people, as an example, they're required, as soon as they notice a customer, a lead, or whatever, they have to pick up the phone, call the customer. They almost simultaneously send a text message, and then they follow up with an email, staying top of mind to the customer. And one of the things that a name we probably all know well, a good friend of mine by the name of Mark Rikus. He taught me a long time ago, which I loved. I stole this from him. Is the minute you get on the phone with the customer, ask them, are you ready to proceed with the purchase, or are there other questions that you have before we go ahead with that process? And it's amazing how the customers light up when you say that, because whatever their main objections are, in a very nice way, come out in a very positive way, rather than jamming it down their throat. So we have 3 young ladies that work in our sales BDC. They spend all day. They answer all inbound phone calls, all sales calls. They answer every internet lead. They do all the follow-up, and once it's assigned to a salesperson, the salesperson is then followed up on by the same BDC agent, because now they both have an interest in making that deal, because our BDC people are paid on percentages of success, meaning they get paid on how many appointments, how many shows, and what percentage of sold against total leads. And they know what the national benchmarks are for all of the above. And we publish those numbers constantly, so they know where they're at.
And I mean, that's really taking the approach that, everyone's a customer. Like, there's not a difference between the one that's in my showroom or the one that's digital. They are customers at the end of the day, and you guys have created a process that is backed by people, right? A process, and of course, some technology that's going to put this all together. Bill,
one more thing I just want to add. I'm sorry to take up all your time. Listen, I can pick up my phone, which is charging in that wall right over there right now, and I know for a fact when I open up my Google Data Suite, there may be 2 or 3 people standing in my showroom, but there's going to be 40 or 50 people on my site right now.
There you go. 100%.
Why would you want to roll the dice by staring at the door when you have 50 people staring at your website?
That's right. Be where the customers are at. No doubt. Justin, final thoughts before we finish off?
That's tough to follow what Bill just said, because that's the reality of it.
Yeah.
Right? A customer is a customer is a customer, and at the end of the day, in this instance, our goal is to help drive more people to Gold Coast Cadillac, whether it's Gold Coast Cadillac, the physical location, or goldcoastcadillac.com. We know that if we drive that traffic, if we bring that shopper to Bill and his team, they'll convert it if it's meant to be converted, and that's the reality. I think to your point earlier, do you treat them differently? You shouldn't, because as Bill said, do you want to talk to the 2 people that are standing in your showroom that are already being attended to, or the 40 people who are in your virtual showroom, your website? I mean, I think the proof is in the pudding, and I think it's pretty important that all customers, in that instance, need to be treated with the best possible process that 100%. Your dealership has. So,
guys, I really appreciate you guys taking the time to chat with me today. For everybody out there watching and listening, guys, I know we've covered a lot, and I'm sure we could do a whole series just on integration and Omnichannel. In fact, there might be one out there. But
sounds vaguely familiar.
If you guys want to learn more, I'll put it in the notes. But hey, we appreciate you. Thank you so much for taking the time to watch today. It is now time for Q&A. So you guys have been watching. Make sure you guys put in your questions. We're going to hang out right after this and answer those questions. Guys, thank you so much for taking the time. This has been a blast.
Glad to be here with you.
Thanks, guys.
Awesome.
Yeah, thanks, Jason.
Thanks. We appreciate you guys. Have a good one.
Thanks for tuning in to the Strategy with Jason podcast with your host, Jason Harris. Remember to like, comment, and subscribe. Happy podcasting.